What's wrong? You've really been distracted today.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the movies that either killed a franchise or failed to get one off the ground.
I'm sorry, Princess.
Number 50, Hellboy. The 2000s Hellboy films hold a special place in the hearts of comic book fans, and a new Hellboy movie without the combined powers of Ron Perlman's charisma and Guillermo del Toro's directorial sensibility would be a tough sell. But the 2019 Hellboy completely failed to justify its existence.
Is that my Uber?
David Harbour does well in the title role, but that hardly matters with a film so tonally incoherent and desperately edgy.
Hey! I'm on your side! Sorry, my bad.
It was so bad that director Neil Marshall even disowned it, blaming studio interference. Between that and the dreadful box office, there was no chance in hell this reboot would continue.
Come on! Do not sneak up on me like that.
Number 49, Sin City: A Dame to Kill For. When the original adaptation of Frank Miller's neo-noir comic series was released in 2005, it was hailed for its cutting-edge visuals and gritty tone. After its release, co-directors Miller and Robert Rodriguez announced a sequel was in the works, but it wasn't for another 9 years that it would actually be released.
I told you. You belong here. Jerk!
I thought there was another world out there. I thought I could be a part of it.
By then, what was once groundbreaking was now old news, and the film felt like an overly graphic retread of its predecessor.
Don't go soft on me, kid. Don't leave anybody breathing.
I won't.
Just to give you an idea of how disinterested audiences were, Sin City: A Dame to Kill For's total North American box office gross was less than half what the original made in its opening weekend. A third film was planned, but this awful performance led to the franchise's indefinite hiatus.
Molly said you're ready to leave.
No, I'm staying.
Wrong answer.
Number 48. Thomas and the Magic Railroad. While many TV characters have successfully transitioned to the big screen, that does not include Thomas the Tank Engine and his locomotive friends, who came to theaters in 2000 and were soon sent back to the station.
Smile, you steamers! It's a sunny day!
It's not sunny because Mr. C's not at the windmill. I look!
I think his sparkle's all gone.
My smoke box doesn't feel sunny. It feels stuffed up.
Even if the critics reviewing it knew they weren't the intended audience, they couldn't look past the shoddy special effects and inept storytelling. Some even noted that the interwoven plot lines would likely make Thomas's preschool fans confused and restless.
What if it's dark?
It will be for a while.
And cold?
Maybe.
A couple of weeks before its release, a sequel was announced, but that fizzled out once it barely managed to recoup its meager budget. The film's underperformance also resulted in writer-director and Shining Time station creator Britt Allcroft resigning from her company. Ouch.
Lady, you're a really helpful engine.
And helping each other brings to life the magic in all of us.
Number 47, Mortal Kombat Annihilation. Though the first Mortal Kombat was no cinematic masterpiece, it was about as good as you could expect from a mid-90s video game adaptation. Its follow-up, on the other hand, wasn't just bad, it was incompetent.
I will take your soul myself if you fail me now.
I will rally the extermination squads and prepare for victory.
One of its producers even admitted that it was sent to theaters with unfinished special effects. Even the most undiscerning teenagers could tell this was an absolute stinker.
I got everything I need right here.
Though it managed to top the box office in its first weekend, it was a short-lived victory. A third film was on the horizon, but the toxic reception to this one kept it from getting off the ground. A reboot film was released in 2021, one infinitely better than this mess.
Mother. You're alive.
Too bad you will die.
Number 46, Jem and the Holograms. A rather loose adaptation of the beloved 80s animated series, Jem and the Holograms left fans cold.
You don't think we're gonna last that long?
Lacking the giddy, colorful fun of its source material, it feels like a movie designed to turn off its target audience. A year before the film's release, star Aubrey Peoples expressed optimism that further gem films would be made, but the horrendous box office performance made it clear that wouldn't be happening.
Wait, let me explain what's been going on, okay?
Explain what? What are you gonna explain?
Not only did it fail to recoup its meager $5 million budget, but it also debuted outside of the top 10. When a movie can't even meet the lowest of financial expectations, there's no point in even entertaining further installments.
This isn't the end of anything.
Number 45. Van Helsing. In the months and weeks leading up to Van Helsing's release, it seemed like the new action horror franchise was upon us.
This is where I come in.
No, wait!
After all, it was the director of The Mummy and the star of X-Men teaming up for a movie that features Dracula, Frankenstein's monster, and plenty more fearsome foes. How could that go wrong?
What are you complaining about? This is why you and me!
Universal was so convinced of the film's financial prospects that they kept the Transylvania sets intact, assuming they would be used again soon enough. However, while Van Helsing turned a profit, it clearly wasn't what the studio was hoping for, and with critics largely loathing it and audiences mostly shrugging, a stake was put through the heart of any potential future installments.
This is the door. He just didn't know how to open it.
Number 44. UglyDolls. The Lego movie proved that even a piece of brand extension could have artistic merit. UglyDolls, based on the popular plush toys, is a perfect example of trying to cash in on name recognition.
Everything that comes to Uglyville arrives here. So, if we're going to find the big world, it's only logical we start here.
The first animated film produced by STX Entertainment, it was given a massive marketing push and was intended to start a whole new media franchise. But the next Trolls, it was not. Instead, UglyDolls was just another mediocre animated movie, one that arrived far too late.
What is this?
Not only were there no additional movies, but a television series in development at Hulu was also quietly scrapped. Talk about ugly.
We need to take a stand. All of us.
But how? We're rejects. I read it in the paper.
Number 43. Dragonball Evolution. Live-action adaptations of beloved manga/anime don't have the best track record, and this is possibly the most infamous example.
Where is it? I know it's here.
Are you Piccolo? Did you kill my grandfather?
Listen, idiot. If I was a Piccolo, whatever that is, I wouldn't tell you.
Upon release, this American take on the beloved Dragon Ball franchise was despised by the series' devoted fans, who found it had little in common with the property they knew and loved.
Wait, are you here for me?
It's not your time, Goku.
And anyone who wasn't already familiar with the series wasn't going to be persuaded by this schlocky mess. It certainly doesn't help that series creator, Akira Toriyama, essentially disowned it, saying it, quote, ticked him off. With feedback like this, it's no wonder that plans for further live-action Dragon Ball movies were soon cancelled.
One wish will be granted.
Number 42. Land of the Lost. Will Ferrell starring in a big-budget comedic adaptation of the beloved cheesy television series Land of the Lost may have seemed like a surefire recipe for summer success.
The package has arrived. What's the package? It's a canister of refrigerant.
Unfortunately, a raunchy take on a children's show from the 70s was not the way to go. Opening the same weekend as The Hangover likely put a dent in its box office prospects, but it could have easily recovered if it was, funny.
Classic hive behavior. Obviously on patrol. Yep, just like drones, tirelessly hunting.
Dude, it looks like they're getting ready to make out.
Though no sequel was officially announced, it's easy to imagine the studio wanting to turn this into a franchise. But between being critically derided and ignored by audiences, any chance of that happening was lost.
Chaka, technically I'm still your master.
Number 41. Chaos Walking. Movie adaptations of Harry Potter, Twilight, and The Hunger Games collectively raking in billions means that studios are forever on the hunt for the next YA sensation to turn into a blockbuster franchise.
Could I contact my ship there? I need to warn them.
Yeah. I have no idea. Shut up, Todd.
Chaos Walking, based on the first film in Patrick Ness's book trilogy, was a big-budget production with 2 stars in Tom Holland and Daisy Ridley, based on an acclaimed series set in a dystopian world where women have all but gone extinct. And it was chaos, and not in a good way.
You don't know about your mother?
She died when I was a baby, so... So? You can still know what she's like. Dead. She's dead. She's dead. That's what she's like.
Critics found it dull and derivative, and audiences stayed away. Costing at least $100 million, it couldn't even make back half its budget worldwide.
Viola, she's here. Viola's here. Where else would I be?
Number 40, Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore. As we just mentioned, the Harry Potter films were massively successful. The next series in the Wizarding World franchise, Fantastic Beasts, was, to put it mildly, a disappointment.
Grindelwald has the ability to see snatches of the future. So we have to assume that he'll be able to anticipate what we do before we do it.
Though the first film performed very well and received positive notices, sequel The Crimes of Grindelwald was a noted step down. While the third film, The Secrets of Dumbledore, was generally seen as an improvement, it wasn't enough to bring back people turned off by its predecessor.
My sister was an Obscurial. Unlike Credence, she never learned to express her magic.
The initial plan for the Fantastic Beasts series was 5 films, but it ultimately stalled out at a tepid 3.
Let's call it fate.
Number 39, Ender's Game. An adaptation of the cherished YA sci-fi novel Ender's Game was something countless readers imagined while excitedly turning the pages.
Salamander, halt! At ease.
But many, including author Orson Scott Card, considered it to be unadaptable. But against all odds, an Ender's Game movie was made starring the likes of Asa Butterfield, Haley Steinfeld, Viola Davis, and Harrison Ford. And it was fine, but it didn't resonate the way the book had for generations.
You're not equipped to handle the heat of passage through an atmosphere.
Our drones are our heat shield. Keep falling, let gravity do the work.
And its lukewarm box office performance means that none of the novel's sequels were adapted. Sometimes things are just better off being left on the page.
Sir, I can't win if I don't take any risks.
Nobody's saying not to take risks. Just don't try and control everything.
Number 38, The Darkest Minds. Yep, it's another failed YA adaptation. Based on the dystopian book series about superpowered teens, The Darkest Minds played to the emptiest theaters.
Why should I trust you?
Whether you trust me or not, I don't care. Sooner or later, you're gonna learn that the only ones who can help us are us.
Okay, it wasn't that bad, but it was close. It largely feels like a setup for future installments that never were. And critics, already burnt out on similar fare, had little in the way of compliments.
Look who's here. Our little fugitive.
After debuting with one of the worst opening weekends for a movie released in 3,000 plus theaters, it became evident that the future for The Darkest Minds as a film series was decidedly dim.
So please, stop.
Number 37, Artemis Fowl. While other YA adaptations on this list performed poorly in theaters, at least they made it to theaters.
Artemis Jr., I presume. I have your father.
A movie version of Owen Colfer's fantasy novel had been in the works since 2001, and once Disney got the rights, it seemed poised to be another book-to-screen sensation, especially with Kenneth Branagh directing. Then it was finished, and Disney, in their wisdom, decided not to put it in theaters.
I'll have her badge for this.
That's a bit harsh, isn't it?
Shut up, Foley, or I'll have yours too.
Instead, Artemis Fowl debuted on Disney+. Some have attributed this decision to the COVID-19 pandemic, but it's far likelier that Disney knew they had a dud on their hands. Fans of the book series derided it for its lack of adherence to its source material, and critics were left flummoxed. Talk about foul.
Where are we going?
To finish this.
You think I'm ready?
Oh, I know you're ready.
Number 36, Star Trek Nemesis. The series of films starring the cast of Star Trek The Next Generation wasn't intended to end with Nemesis.
Romulus, I'm afraid the Open Sea will have to wait, number one.
But once box office returns came in, it meant the premature end of Captain Picard and company on the big screen. Sure, it doesn't help that it was released just days before The Two Towers, but it's also just not up to par as a Star Trek movie or as effective sci-fi entertainment.
So what am I? My life is meaningless as long as you're still alive.
Many consider it to be the worst film in the entire series. Among its detractors are its cast members, who have criticized director Stuart Baird's lack of familiarity with the source material. But the script is also just an utter mess. The Enterprise crew deserved better.
To family.
Number 35. Catwoman. An A-list actress fresh off an Oscar win playing one of the most iconic comic book characters of all time? That's an attempted franchise starter if we've ever heard one.
Amateur.
But after Catwoman was released and flopped hard, it became clear its only legacy would be as one of the worst superhero movies of all time. Halle Berry, who famously accepted her Worst Actress Razzie Award in person, does her best with what she's given. The problem is, what she's given is this.
Don't I get dinned first?
Even DC fans desperate to see something new that was even tangentially Batman related knew to stay away. Cats may have 9 lives, but this ill-fated take on Catwoman barely had 1.
Exactly.
Number 34. Treasure Planet. The early 2000s were rough for traditionally animated movies, and not even Disney was immune.
It's Treasure Planet. No.
Treasure Planet, a sci-fi update on the classic pirate story Treasure Island, is something of a bridge between old and new ways of storytelling, incorporating both 2D and 3D animation to give it a particularly dynamic visual look.
Hold on to your lifelines, gents! It's gonna be a bumpy ride!
But that wasn't enough to draw in families amidst a crowded holiday season. The hope was that it would earn enough to launch a direct-to-video and TV franchise. But Treasure Planet found very little treasure at the box office, becoming one of the costliest flops of all time.
Stay out of trouble, you old scalawag.
Why, Jimbo lad, when have I ever done otherwise?
Number 33. Battleship. Hasbro had seen major success with live-action versions of Transformers and G.I. Joe, so they likely figured that Battleship could be their next opportunity for turning one of their properties into a blockbuster franchise.
You good? Come on, you with me?
But there's a difference between adapting something with recognizable characters and a board game involving guessing where plastic pegs are. Battleship used its recognizable brand name for a Navy vs. Aliens movie that's loud and stupid without ever being much fun.
Okay, so they can't see us and we can't see them, and we have no way to hit them from a safe distance.
And when your budget is $209 million, that's not good. Any chances of Battleship becoming a new summer franchise were swiftly sunk by its poor performance.
They ain't gonna sink this battleship, no way.
Number 32. Dark Phoenix. Tracing the trajectory of Fox's X-Men series is fascinating. At its peak, it proved just how good comic book movies could be. At its nadir, it was Dark Phoenix.
I can't actually remember the last time you were the one risking something. And by the way, the women are always saving the men around here. You might want to think about changing the name to X-Women.
The fourth and final film in the prequel series that began with X-Men First Class, Dark Phoenix is an origin story centered on Sophie Turner's Jean Grey. But it's all but impossible to get invested in any story when the execution is this lifeless.
Please, stop. Not until I know you're gonna be okay.
Though Disney's acquisition of Fox earlier that year was inevitably going to affect the inaugural X-Men film franchise, Dark Phoenix all but confirmed the series had hit a painful dead end.
I know what I need to do now.
What is that?
Protect my family.
Number 31. The Cat in the Hat. After the success of The Grinch, Universal quickly got to work on another live-action adaptation of a Dr. Seuss classic.
Where did you come from?
How do I put this? When a mommy cat and a daddy cat love each other very much, they decide.
This take on The Cat in the Hat had Mike Myers' comedic energy and an elaborate production design, but it had none of the whimsical charm of Seuss's work. Critics savaged it for its obnoxiousness and overly crude humor, and word of mouth was not great. While the studio had also planned to adapt Seuss's follow-up, The Cat in the Hat Comes Back, the poor response to this ended that. In fact, Seuss's widow, Audrey Geisel, decided to stop allowing live-action adaptations of her husband's work after seeing it. Ouch.
Cromwell, please.
Number 30. Speed Racer. Based on a beloved anime and helmed by the lauded directors of The Matrix, you'd think this wannabe franchise would go all the way past the finish line.
I don't know if I can watch this.
It's too bad then that it stalled out on its very first leg. While Speed Racer's eclectic visuals have earned it a rabid cult following over the years, that same quirky tone made it a tough sell for casual moviegoers. This movie couldn't even recoup its own budget at the box office, let alone deliver any profits.
You poor naive chump.
Despite ideas for a follow-up already revving up, the returns were so bad, it's unlikely we'll ever see this version of Speed on the big screen again. Number 29. Solo, a Star Wars story. When Disney sought to make a film series about everyone's favorite space cowboy, they made Alden Ehrenreich sign on the dotted line for a whole trilogy.
What's your name, son?
Hunt.
What? Who are your people?
I don't have people. I'm alone.
Solo.
But therein also lies the problem. No one wanted a Han Solo movie without Harrison Ford, and audiences said as much with their wallets. The depressing box office ensured Solo would be Han's one and only big screen adventure. The impact went way beyond this one film though. No, Solo's underperformance had repercussions all across the galaxy far, far away, with many reporting that it scared the Mouse House away from producing any more theatrical Star Wars spin-offs.
I don't like it. I don't agree with it. But I accept it.
So if you're ever wondering where those big budget tentpoles went, blame Solo. Number 28. Mortal Engines. A buzzy young adult series, a steampunk aesthetic, and a cushy December release date seem like a foolproof formula for a new industry juggernaut.
Very, very nice. I've dug up a few of these in my time, but none as good as this.
Unfortunately, both fans and reviewers disagreed. Lambasted by toxic word of mouth, Mortal Engines failed to garner much traction during the busy holiday frame, and it has the poor profits to prove it. Or it would if it had any profits at all. The movie is often cited as one of the biggest box office bombs of all time, losing its studio around $175 million.
You failed.
Given the wallet-burning results, you can imagine why distributor Universal Pictures wasn't very eager to adapt the remaining 3 books. Number 27. Sahara. Even if this disaster flick had been a smashing success, which for the record it most definitely was not, prospects for a sequel still would have been as barren as an actual desert.
Ava. Ava. We'll get through, huh?
Sahara's fate as a franchise was actually decided in a courtroom, where the original book's author tried suing the film's producer. There's a laundry list of reasons why, but most of them boil down to the movie's extremely bumpy path to theaters. It wasn't even worth it either. The adaptation got a total yawn from audiences.
Is that all?
So considering there's no money in the brand and a decade-spanning lawsuit to smooth over, it's no wonder everyone abandoned Sahara 2. Number 26. Showgirls. There's an old saying in Hollywood, sex sells. Sadly, Showgirls is the exception. While there were tons of headlines about the film's explicit content, it didn't translate to ticket sales.
I'm sorry! I'm sorry. Jesus, Noomi.
You can probably blame the bad reviews for that one. Modern critics have come back around to give Showgirls its due, but they came too late to rescue the in-development sequel. Well, technically we did get Showgirls 2. However, it didn't star Elizabeth Berkley and was released primarily through film festivals, DVD, and video on demand. If Showgirls had hit theaters today, we may have actually gotten the proper sequel it always deserved.
Then what are you doing here?
I'm watching you be a prick.
Well, you ain't seen nothing yet.
Number 25. I Am Number 4. Despite its name, I Am Number 4 couldn't even make it past movie number 1. Keep in mind, this was also at a time when every studio in town was looking for the next young adult craze.
You alright?
Yeah.
Anyone else see what happened?
DreamWorks thought they'd struck gold with this book series, so much so they fast-tracked development on a sequel before I Am Number 4 even hit theaters. But when the mediocre film delivered even more mediocre results, the franchise hopeful quietly turned into a disappointing one-off instead.
I'm sorry.
I'm not. I mean, I was. But, I don't know. kind of look at it like a total gift.
All in all, there's 7 long books in the series. However, to this day, there's still only one movie. That alone should tell you everything you need to know. Number 24, Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events. For the record, casting Jim Carrey as the maniacally inept Count Olaf was a stroke of genius.
I will raise these orphans as if they were actually wanted.
It's tragic then that it didn't end up moving the needle all that much. Despite the popular source material, A Series of Unfortunate Events suffered from soft audience turnout. Distributor Paramount Pictures wanted to adapt the other 10 books into feature films, but the lower than expected profits slowed down development, and by the time everyone was on board, the child actors were too old to reprise their roles anyway.
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Are you checking me, girl?
This turned out to be a series of unfortunate events indeed, just not in the way that helped anyone's pocketbook. Number 23, The Dark Tower. Stephen King may be a household name on bookshelves, but his forays to the big screen have had some very mixed results. Looking at you, The Dark Tower.
Was it about the tower? The war?
Yes.
It's even more embarrassing when you realize it took 10 years of development for this movie to finally see the light of day. When it did, audiences outright rejected the final project, disappointed in the way it crammed King's epic story into a 2-hour snore fest. Reviews were bad, profits were worse, and any thoughts of adapting the rest of the series were simply non-existent.
One last time around the wheel, old friend.
No one was touching this stinker with a 10-foot pole, and honestly, that's for the best. Number 22, Independence Day, Resurgence. Whoever thought it was a good idea to revive this franchise without Will Smith needs a major wake-up call.
Hey, come on. Let's be professional.
His star power almost single-handedly catapulted the original to popcorn entertainment staple. So when Independence Day came back 20 years later without him, all it got was some major diminishing returns. 20th Century Fox hoped the franchise name alone would drive interest for a third film, but considering Resurgence finished its run as a serious financial disappointment, it's clear they shouldn't have even made it in the first place.
You all have to pick up the pieces once it's over. This is my part.
So don't expect to see these aliens return for a third time. At least, not without Will Smith. Number 21, The Mummy. It takes a special kind of box office poison to ruin a film, a franchise, and a whole universe in one fell swoop. 2017's The Mummy was just that bad.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Headlined by Tom Cruise, the film underwent rigorous production delays in order to kickstart a whole cinematic universe of monster flicks. Dracula, The Invisible Man, Frankenstein's monster, it was all riding on the groundwork laid by The Mummy. But then came the box office tallies. Let's just say the numbers were so crummy, this mummy was promptly put back in its tomb alongside any hope for future crossovers. Maybe this time they'll let it rest for good.
And that is a mistake we cannot afford to repeat.
Number 20, The Lone Ranger.
Hold on, Kimosabe. Tonto?
Disney's The Lone Ranger is a modern adaptation of the classic radio series and 50s television show. However, it seems as if the Ranger and Tonto aren't quite the superstars they were 60 years ago. The film was lambasted for its bloated length and over-reliance on action, while also being accused of whitewashing by casting Johnny Depp as a Native American.
What's your crime, boy?
Indian.
The film cost roughly $400 million to produce and market, but it ended up only making $260 million at the worldwide box office. Stars Armie Hammer and Ruth Wilson were signed to do at least 3 movies, but these plans fell off a horse upon the Lone Ranger's abysmal performance.
Something very wrong with that horse.
Number 19, Conan the Barbarian.
No man should live in chains.
Did you know that they made another Conan movie in 2011? Neither did most people. Despite the movie featuring a few respectable actors, including Jason Momoa and Ron Perlman, it was severely criticized for basically every aspect of its filmmaking, and for relying too heavily on its 3D effects. The film ended up grossing a meager $48 million on a $90 million budget. There were plans to follow up the remake's story, but it was soon announced that they would be making a sequel to the original 1982 film instead. However, these plans eventually fell through too, meaning the 2011 movie likely ended Conan's appearances on the silver screen.
I live, I love, I slay, and I am content.
Number 18, Eragon.
Sorry,
That's all there is.
It's probably best that there were no more films, because we don't know if we could sit through another one. Eragon was considered one of the worst movies of 2006 due to its atrocious writing and derivative storyline.
What did you just do?
I started the fire.
Despite the movie's roasting by critics, it admittedly didn't do terribly at the box office, as it grossed a rather respectable $250 million on a $100 million budget. However, this was deemed a disappointment, and the sequels, which were set to film back-to-back, Lord of the Rings style, were cancelled. Fans of Christopher Paolini's Inheritance cycle will just have to wait for a more respectable film adaptation, because Eragon wasn't it.
Are you ready to try again, Dragon Rider?
Number 17, King Arthur, Legend of the Sword.
But there is no way that I am fighting.
If there's one movie audiences were not asking for, it was yet another King Arthur movie, this time directed by Guy Ritchie and starring Charlie Hunnam. Don't get us wrong, we love those guys, but we don't think a fantastical King Arthur film was a good fit for their talents, and neither did audiences.
Why have enemies when you can have friends?
The movie grossed only $148 million on a Marvel-esque $175 million budget, effectively making it one of the biggest bombs of the year. Legend of the Sword was meant to serve as the first entry in a six film series, but after losing Warner Brothers $150 million, its sequels were swiftly and understandably given the axe, or sword in this case.
I feel a joke coming on here.
Number 16, Planet of the Apes.
You damn dirty human!
Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes had one thing going for it: Rick Baker's incredible makeup effects. Aside from that, the movie was a total wash, as it was a confusing mess with a twist ending that tarnished the iconic nature of the original.
Can't we all just get along?
While the movie was a financial success, Fox decided to scrap its plans for a sequel, and Tim Burton stated that he'd, quote, rather jump out a window than do another Apes movie. However, this was no great loss. Fox decided to reboot the series instead, resulting in 2011's Rise of the Planet of the Apes, and arguably one of the greatest movie trilogies of all time.
Take your stinking paw off me, you damn dirty ape!
Number 15, Jumper.
Just jump all over the place, jump, 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 jump. And nothing's gonna happen?
Jumper was another relatively successful movie whose sequels were cancelled. Jumper starred many notable actors, including Hayden Christensen, Michael Rooker, and Samuel L. Jackson, but it received horrible reviews due to its lack of coherence and awful special effects. However, the movie did gross over $200 million on an $85 million budget, but while producer Lucas Foster hoped to turn the movie into a trilogy, these plans have yet to come to fruition. A spin-off, titled Impulse, premiered on YouTube Red in June 2018. So, you know, that's something.
No one is going to believe you.
Number 14, Godzilla.
We're in his mouth! We're in his mouth!
Godzilla is one of the greatest monsters to ever grace movie screens. It deserved better than this abomination. Godzilla was set to be the movie of the summer, as it was made for a massive $130 million. And while it made a very respectable $379 million at the box office, it was viciously attacked by critics for being nothing more than a dumb disaster flick.
What do we do? Running would be a good idea.
There were plans to produce a trilogy based around Godzilla and similar monsters, but plans fell through when they failed to generate interest among moviegoers and theater owners. The sequels were scrapped, and Godzilla was rebooted over 15 years later.
Let them fight.
Number 13, Ghostbusters.
Let's light them up!
The all-female reboot of Ghostbusters was immediately met with an unfair amount of disdain. Its trailer was heavily downvoted on YouTube, and many people personally attacked the filmmakers and cast over social media. Regardless of the reasons for the vitriol, the movie ended up grossing $229 million on a $144 million budget. Because of the film's huge marketing budget, the studio needed $300 million just to break even.
Booyah. Emphasis on the boo.
Well, I would love to see that. I really would.
Sony head Rory Brewer hoped that the movie would spawn a franchise, and it was reported that the cast had signed on for 2 more movies. However, director Paul Feig later confirmed that they were canceling the sequels due to the film's mediocre reception.
Okay, this is not good.
Number 12, the Divergent series, Allegiant.
What if there's nothing else out there?
Young adult movies are big business. Ever since Harry Potter dominated the world throughout the 2000s, producers the world over have been trying to replicate its success. The Divergent series did not do that, despite a respectable lead performance from Shailene Woodley. Allegiant was the third movie in the series, but it only grossed a disappointing $179 million at the worldwide box office.
You saved a city. Help me save the world.
Due to the film's underperformance, plans for the second part of the movie fell through, and it was announced that the story would continue as a television film and/or TV series without Shailene Woodley. Talk about two serious blows.
Hey.
We're leaving.
What?
Right now.
What? I can't.
Number 11. Battlefield Earth.
While you were still learning how to spell your name, I was being trained to conquer galaxies.
Battlefield Earth is infamous for being one of the worst movies of all time, filled with bad acting and curiously angled shots. The movie also has its roots in Scientology. Scientology's founder, L. Ron Hubbard, wrote the novel on which the movie is based, and famous Scientologist John Travolta hoped that the novel would be adapted in 2 parts. Those hopes were soon dashed post-release.
Your powers of observation are simply startling.
The movie dramatically fell off the box office charts after its opening weekend, eventually grossing just shy of $30 million on a $73 million budget. The commercial failure, coupled with the eventual bankruptcy of production company Franchise Pictures, meant that we never got to see the conclusion of Hubbard's story on screen.
I've wasted my time, haven't I?
Number 10. The Amazing Spider-Man 2.
I'm following you now. I'm just gonna follow you everywhere.
There wasn't exactly a strong demand for a reboot of the Spider-Man franchise only 5 years after Spider-Man 3, and unfortunately, the mediocre quality of these films didn't do much to win over audiences. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 received a mixed reception, and eventually grossed a disappointing, relative to the property, $709 million.
I don't want your money.
Come on, everybody wants my money!
While this iteration of the Spider-Man series was meant to spawn an entire universe, including more Spider-Man films and Sinister Six, Venom, and Black Cat movies, these plans were indefinitely delayed after the performance of The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Sony then reached a deal with Marvel to bring Spider-Man to the MCU, effectively canceling the Amazing Spider-Man franchise in the process. Number 9. Batman and Robin.
Chicks dig the car. This is why Superman works alone.
Like Battlefield Earth, Batman and Robin is known for being one of the worst movies of all time, and like Battlefield Earth, there were high hopes that it would pave the way for future installments.
Let's kick some ice.
Warner Brothers had commissioned a sequel based solely on the dailies of Batman and Robin. It was to be called Batman Unchained and planned to feature Scarecrow as the main antagonist, with George Clooney reprising his role as the Caped Crusader. However, Clooney decided that he was done with the cowl after the harsh reception of Batman and Robin, and the sequel was cancelled. Warner Brothers then hired Christopher Nolan to completely reboot the franchise, resulting in Batman Begins.
Where are you?
Number 8. Fantastic Four.
You guys sure you're in the best shape to be doing this?
Fox had big plans for their rebooted Fantastic Four. A sequel was announced before Fantastic Four even began filming, with a planned release date of July 14th, 2017. However, the movie was a massive critical and commercial bomb, earning only $168 million at the worldwide box office and a 9% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. The future of the franchise was immediately thrown into question, although it wasn't looking very good for the Marvel's first family.
It's fantastic.
Say that again?
In December 2017, Disney announced that it was purchasing Fox's TV and film assets, a move that would place the future of the Fantastic Four in the hands of Marvel Studios. We saw how well it worked for Spider-Man, so fingers crossed.
It's clobbering time!
Number 7. Terminator Genisys.
You are nothing but a relic from a deleted timeline.
There once was a time when the Terminator series was the pinnacle of action cinema. Nowadays, we get the likes of Terminator Genisys, which many people found to be a convoluted, watered-down mess. The film earned only $89 million at the domestic box office, which was considered a massive disappointment for the iconic franchise.
Why hold on to someone when you know you must let them go?
Worse yet, Genisys was set to be the first movie of a new trilogy, but these plans were canceled after the movie's numbers came in. It was then announced that James Cameron would be returning to the series, and that the next film would serve as a reboot and continue the story of Terminator 2. Hasta la vista, Genisys.
Are you kidding me?
Number 6. The Mortal Instruments, City of Bones.
I'm a werewolf, not the golden retriever.
Hollywood desperately wants to find the next Harry Potter. While some young adult adaptations like The Hunger Games and Twilight have found success, many others have failed, but few as spectacularly as The Mortal Instruments. City of Bones opened poorly and never recovered, earning only $90 million on a $60 million budget.
Wait, you can see this guy?
Of course she can, she's a witch.
Plans for a sequel, City of Ashes, were made before the release of City of Bones, but due to the disappointing box office performance, these plans were put on hold. It was eventually announced that the sequel was cancelled and that The Mortal Instruments would continue as a television series.
I've no idea what you're talking about.
Number 5. Superman Returns.
Who are you?
I'm Clark Kent.
Superman Returns served as a reboot/sequel of the first 2 Superman movies, and ignored the 3rd and 4th entries, which, let's be honest, was for the best.
Stop! Don't do it! The people!
Unfortunately, while many people considered it a decent movie, it was a disappointment at the box office, earning only $391 million against a $200+ million budget.
You wrote that the world doesn't need a savior. But every day I hear people crying for one.
A sequel was planned and set to star Brainiac and Bizarro as villains, with much of the cast reprising their roles, but it was scrapped after the underperformance of Superman Returns. A reboot was planned instead, and Zack Snyder's Man of Steel was released 7 years later. Number 4. The Golden Compass.
If you value your lives, come no further.
Warner Brothers was really swinging for the fences with The Golden Compass, but hey, like we said, you gotta find the next Harry Potter. It was made on a $180 million budget and starred various A-listers, including Nicole Kidman, Ian McKellen, and Daniel Craig. However, fans of the novel were incensed that the adaptation diluted the story's anti-religious themes, and significant studio interference negatively impacted the finished product. The movie received mediocre reviews and grossed only $70 million in the domestic market.
Is that all?
Due to the movie's underperformance and alleged pressure from the Catholic Church, New Line canceled the remaining 2 entries of the series, leaving his Dark Materials fans without a satisfying conclusion to the on-screen story.
Maybe we shouldn't be doing this.
Number 3. The Last Airbender.
I don't know how to bend the other elements.
We didn't really have high hopes for M. Night Shyamalan's The Last Airbender, but it turned out to be even worse than we imagined. Not only did the movie generate a measly 6% on Rotten Tomatoes, it was heavily criticized for whitewashing many of its Asian characters. Despite the bile spat at the movie from both critics and fans, it managed to generate a respectable $319 million at the box office. While Shyamalan had planned to make a sequel featuring Azula as the villain, these plans never came to fruition. However, Shyamalan has expressed interest in making more Airbender movies at a future date, should the opportunity arise. Let's hope he's just trolling.
I don't think that's a good idea.
Number 2. John Carter.
That don't look like a fair fight.
Suffice it to say that Disney had big plans for the John Carter name. They allegedly put upwards of $350 million into the movie, including marketing costs, and the filmmakers reported that they were planning to make the series into a trilogy.
Is that your expert view?
The producers even began work on the second movie, The Gods of Mars, before John Carter was released to theaters. However, the film only made $284 million, and plans for the remaining 2 movies were quickly canceled, while director Andrew Stanton returned to the world of 3D animated films, directing Finding Dory instead. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. Green Lantern.
Beware my power. Green Lantern's life.
Of all the superhero bombs, Green Lantern was the most spectacular. The film was yet another swing and a miss for DC, as it earned a 26% rating on Rotten Tomatoes and only grossed $220 million on a massive $200 million budget. When you consider that the movie needed to make $500 million to be considered a financial success, as speculated by The Hollywood Reporter, it's clear that Green Lantern was a massive failure.
Well, that's good advice.
The studio's plans for an extended Green Lantern series were immediately scrapped, making its end credit teaser more than a little embarrassing.
Oh, I'm sorry, did I disappoint you?
How would you fix any of these movies? Let us know in the comments.
You must show them